New Year's Eve used to be for me the best day of my life. You know why? I would always be up at New Year's. We frequently had church services. I pastored for like 20 years. And around 1 o'clock in the morning, I'd be getting home. I wouldn't be totally ready to go to bed yet. It's kind of unwinding. And I go before the Lord, and I had a journal. And I was just learning how to hear God. And I'd write from the overflow of my heart what I believe the Lord wanted me to see for the new year. I really want to see you do the same thing this year. Get before the Lord in the stillness of the night. Close yourself away from other people and write what the Lord shows you. This show that I'm putting on right now is a special show. It's called Prophetic Convergence. And it's something Sid Roth brought up to me because, we were getting a lot of problems on YouTube. I, as you know, got canceled. I lost 250,000 followers overnight because YouTube, like Twitter, will punish you for doing broadcasts if you bring up things that they don't want you to talk about. So I always had this editing problem. We've never had this in America. It's such a sad, tragic statement that you could be canceled and have your voice silenced and lose your livelihood if you don't speak what the Communist Party wants you to say. It's called the party line. But Sid Roth called me and said he has a TV program in the Middle East, and they're in Jerusalem. And it reaches a large Arab community. And Barry Siegel, who's a friend of mine, is at the Jerusalem desk, and he does news. I thought, you know what? Let me do the Washington American perspective. Barry can do the Jerusalem Middle East perspective. And we're going to talk about current events, the news nobody's talking about because news is corrupted. And we're going to say, what's the prophetic significance of the events that are happening now? And we call it Prophetic Convergence. I haven't shown it a lot to you because we put it over on Rumble in order to escape YouTube. But I'm going to give you today's broadcast. I want you to see it. And I want you guys to get to know who Barry Siegel is. Prophetic Convergence is on Rumble. That's where it primarily is. And I don't know how much longer I'm going to really be able to do it because it's a more, it's a limited audience compared to all the other platforms we do. But there again, it's limited because we say things there that we can't say anyplace else. So this is going to be a segment from what we can show you on Prophetic Convergence. Welcome to the program. Happy New Year, and it's a wonderful year. You know why it's a wonderful year? Because God is in the year. And so we're going to be looking back at what happened in the past year, 2022. We're going to be doing a prophetic survey of those things that are coming in 2023. Will we have a continuation of global chaos and perpetual pain in the West? Or is there going to be a reversal? We're going to be talking about that in this segment. In the meantime, revolution is in the air. You don't want to miss it. From Asia to the Middle East to the United States. Oh boy, this will be one wild program. Welcome to Prophetic Convergence, ladies and gentlemen. This is a show that literally combines two things you very seldom see happening. An accurate assessment of news that you don't hear, oddly enough, on the mainstream news, and then the prophetic significance. Why is it being blacked out? Why is no one talking about this? And what does it mean? And so that's where Prophetic Convergence actually comes together. Now, Barry Siegel in Jerusalem is our key connector in this show. For me, I do the Washington perspective, and the global perspective comes from both Barry and me. Barry, please join us. Tell me what you've been doing. What have you been doing, my friend? It's New Year's.
Well, it seems like flying around the globe, delayed flights, utter chaos in Heathrow Airport, and I've come unshaven. It's the real me. I'm rough and ready and trained for 2023. Or, of course, we're still in the Hebrew calendar year of 5783. So there is a convergence going on and something great to look forward to. What have we been doing? Well, we've been installing more bomb shelters through our work of Vision for Israel, preparing them on the southern and northern borders of Israel. And we are intensely involved in the lives of many victims of terror attacks. as well as reporting the news that we can through the VFI News, and of course together with you on social media platforms with Prophetic Convergence. I think all that we've prayed for, all that we've been preparing or anticipating or has been bubbling up in our souls as if something's going to break forth, I think 2023 is the year that we're going to see major tectonic shifts in the prophetic world.
I think you're right, Barry. And of course, in the United States, we are not covering certain news. That's part of the premise of our program here, is what you really should be looking at, or what is happening in the news but is being hidden in the news. So, for instance, Tucker Carlson just had a shattering, disclosure he made that a source with high credibility in the U.S. government intelligence community says that they are continuing to seal up the Kennedy files on the assassination. And Tucker asked and said, well, is there any evidence there that is being covered up on purpose that would implicate the intelligence community? And the guy said there's no doubt about it, that the intelligence community was involved with the Kennedy assassination. Now, that's as far as that conversation is going, but you know what? It really resonates with what we're finding out about the dangers of government. You think government is in my country, is actually ethical with a couple of bad actors. Well, maybe human nature is sinful. This is a fundamental Jewish and Christian, theological proposition, that checks and balances are there because man is selfish and is prone to destruction. So you have to have supervision when it comes to power. The intelligence community has come out of the closet because Elon Musk exposed it. And we find that our own CIA and our FBI has been using Twitter as an international news platform to establish narratives, to feed journalists certain directions to go in, and then to fan the flames so that certain narratives are shut down, like the Hunter Biden laptop, and other ones, Trump-Russian collusion, are being manipulated. Now, the New York Times now has a historic link to the CIA. Why do you think CNN has former CIA intelligence officials as anchormen or as commentators? I think it's time that we all open our eyes, Barry, and saw that government is no longer worthy of your trust. It requires your snooping suspicions. What do you think?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that assessment. It's not just something we're seeing, as you're seeing, behind the United States or the shadow government. I believe we're seeing this with the European Union. One of the, just a reflection from the Eastern Hemisphere, the Israeli intelligence revealed secret documents that the European Union is helping the Arabs to take over Area C in Judea and Samaria. It's a secret plan. We exposed it. Of course, the news in the West is suppressing it. The European Union responded, as a general rule, we don't refer to documents, but one of our incoming cabinet members with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from the religious Zionist party named Bezalel Smotrich responded, and he said, quote, "The fight against the Arab takeover of open areas in Judea and Samaria is one of the most pressing and important challenges that this new government must address, and one of the main reasons my demand, that is his demand, to receive authority for this in the Ministry of Defense." And basically, it's the blatant exposure of the European Union government that's secretly funding through left-wing organizations the Palestinians to overtake areas, Israeli-held areas in Judea and Samaria. Now, why I bring this up from that perspective is exactly opposite to, is in league with the perspective that you were giving about the CIA, about the FBI, about these left-wing organizations. And honestly, I have said this before on Prophetic Convergence, and I'm letting you and all the rest of those watching, I have been praying and fasting at times that CNN will go bankrupt. It's a sign to me that God answers our intercessory prayers and that there is a place to reach into the heavenlies and take authority over these principalities and powers that are suppressing the truth. And it's the truth that will make us free.
You know, I really believe what you're saying is so true. There's never been a news show because it's so tasteless. Nobody, I brought it up, but nobody wants to do it. I mean, I suppose I would do it because I don't care about those things. But I would love to see what I call the cosmic boomerang program, which is every vehicle that was raised up to destroy the movement that God was doing in America under Donald Trump, to reform and establish borders and economic sanity and middle-class security in terms of lifestyle and Christianity being able to be protected. And CNN was at the top of the list of funded propaganda machines that the intelligence community worked with. It was CNN that broke the Russian collusion narrative. And it was CNN and a bunch of its journalists that were receiving Pulitzer Prizes for groundbreaking research on a fake news report. And so when Zucker gets exposed as having flings in the office, and him and his number one VP marketing woman has to step down, when one of their main producers is evidenced as a pedophile, trafficking with teenage girls, paying off their mothers, and as you go down the scandalous shakedown, people don't realize when people like you, Barry, are praying that God will move to deal with these corrupt regimes. If they really are corrupt, they start to fall apart. Now, we've been praying for God to do something with the American government, but this is CNN on steroids now. This is 100 times bigger, and so it's going to take a little more prayer and effort. But folks, the Twitter files is an answer to prayer. Barry explained to people how Twitter and Elon Musk being moved as a billionaire with $44 billion to go buy this thing, to expose to the world the corruption and the collusion of the intelligence community, the government, and the culpability of big tech people. Explain for a minute or two why that's a prophetic answer to prayer.
Well, I think also this may shed light also on the Kennedy files, which to this day, and I mean, you and I were alive at that time. I certainly remember when he was assassinated and how my parents rushed us out of school and back home and all that, how things for decade after decade after decade, president after president after president in Congress has all suppressed what possibly is inferred of a cover-up. And obviously, it points in many ways to the CIA with ideas that Oswald was contracted by them prior to the assassination in some other operation. But it's the same thing we're seeing over and over again. I also propose, and I mentioned before, I am suspicious, and again, something we need to pray to expose, the whole thing of Title 42 on the southwestern border of the United States. We know years ago, Hezbollah used to smuggle operatives into the United States through a porous border, and I have my suspicions that there are those that are in our government that are siding somehow with those terror organizations and with the Mexican drug cartels, and that they're just, as somebody once said, follow the trail of money and you'll find where it goes. And I think, you know, when we come back shortly, we can talk about many more things as we approach 2023 on Prophetic Convergence.
You know, I wrote a book and I talked about Haggai, the prophet, talking about God is going to shake all the nations including economic systems. And then just recently, I got challenged by a verse. It says, the silver is mine and the gold is mine. And I began to think, you know what? I'd hate to find out there was a promise and a warning here on silver and gold, and I never even thought about it. And that's the reason why I want you guys to do something right now. You want to get a 20-page special report on silver and gold. Go to lancewallnau.com/Birch, because Birch Gold is one organization that is being used by a lot of very credible people right now in order to position themselves with silver and with gold. You need to now start to look into this and learn what it is that maybe God was trying to say, that the silver is mine and the gold is mine. Go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and find out for yourself.
Welcome back to Prophetic Convergence. Lance Wallnau and Barry Siegel, Washington desk and Jerusalem desk. That's the way we see it. Now, Barry, you brought up a very provocative point, and I'm in total agreement with you, that the government and the intelligence communities and the big money donors have so much corrupt common interest. You know, it's been a joke in the United States that the Teamsters Union and Jimmy Hoffa, where's his body? Nobody found him. The mafia, organized crime involved with the unions. In Nevada, for instance, we had a very close Senate election. Most people don't even think about it anymore. But we almost won it, except, oh, wait a second, Cook County, where the Democrats and the unions and the Nevada casino crime families all have a lot in common. They activated the unions to go out and come up with bundles, the culinary union, they even named the union, and they came up with all these votes. It's like a shakedown operation. Hey, Charlie, give me those votes. I need 50. I need 100 from you and 200 from you. Boom, they got their votes. And nobody ever dared contest the outcome, because why would you want to take on the Democratic Party, the unions, and the casino mobs? So all of this kind of makes you wonder, on the border, who in the CIA, who in the FBI, who in the Department of Homeland Security, who in the National Security Council, in which of these agencies are the palms being greased to allow, and I'm going to be even more dangerously specific. In Arizona, there's one property right there that is a Native American tribal territory that overlaps Mexico and Arizona. That's the artery through which sex trafficking, drug trafficking, cartel activity comes. Because the American federal government is inhibited and prohibited from invading or operating on sovereign territory. So that means that Indian territory can become throughput, like a toll booth for activity. Kari Lake, why did she have to be defeated? Well, here's why. They know where the corruption is in the organized crime linked to Arizona. So they were going to build a wall around the Indian tribe. The wall wasn't going to go through the sovereign territory. It was going to circumvent it so that that territory couldn't bring the traffic into the United States. But that's the reason why they had to take Kari out. But by the way, Kari is in one of the unusual cases we have where judgment might work out for the saints. Why do I say that? Because Kari Lake is having a day in court, and she's able to make her case before the judge in Arizona. So what are your thoughts on all of this right now, Barry, as we're going into the new year?
Well, first of all, in response to Kari Lake and the potential of her becoming governor there, of course, I think, it's a challenge to all of you watching this program to pray for Kari. She's a fine, outstanding woman of stature, a great political future. She's a solid Christian with Judeo-Christian ethics. I think she was robbed, literally, of the campaign. Obviously, we saw what went on in the county there. And yes, I agree with you that I think there is an interest inside the intelligence community and those all the way to the top in terms of keeping the borders wide open. Of course, if Judge Roberts, at least as the timing of this program, had stopped temporarily till the Supreme Court judges on the issue of Title 42 has stopped it, but still it's a porous border. Tens of thousands of illegal immigrants are coming across it. And at the same time, I read just the other day that pretty much in many areas across the southwestern border of the United States, in Mexican border towns, are totally run now, not by the Mexican federal police, but are run by, of course, the Mexican drug cartels. And of course, through them, a reminder to everybody that fentanyl is coming through, which is provided by China, and of course, packaged and smuggled in through our borders, and is killing more and more Americans than ever before we've seen. Most of the drug deaths we have is due to fentanyl use in some ways. And I was just reading how, New Orleans is now the murder capital in the United States. And it's abysmal what's going on. And the American people, I read concluding out December 2022, saying that something like the majority of Americans, 65% at least, all consider that America is going in the wrong direction. Well, that, my friends out there who voted other than conservative, my friends, honestly, you sow what you reap. That's or you reap what you sow. Sorry, I'm thinking in Hebrew backwards. So you reap what you sow, and we need to stand up and make the change now. And otherwise, our country is going to descend into chaos and the potential for a totalitarian regime, despite the fact that the Republican Congress is now in power.
You make an interesting point, and we only have 5 minutes left on this show right now. But as we're going to the new year, Barry, I think we have to celebrate the fact that prayer, while it may not be answered the way that we want in the time that we want, it ultimately isn't lost. The Bible talks about the prayers being like bowls of incense that are accumulated and then they're tipped over at the right time. When I'm in Aruba at a water park that I sometimes go to with staff members and their kids, and when we do family vacations, one of the things they love to do is to have me sit there in the water park underneath this gigantic bucket. And the bucket's filling with water. And every 5 minutes, when the bucket hits a tipping point, it tilts over and down comes probably 1,000 gallons of water on the head of whoever's down there. And so my job is to act like I don't know what's coming. And the kids are giggling and saying, stay there, stay there. And they're looking over my head. And then suddenly the bucket tips. And it's like I'm in Niagara Falls. It almost knocks you off your feet. This is the way revival is, folks. This is the way Great Awakenings are. We are still building towards a tipping point. But what Barry and I believe is that 2023 is when we watch the bucket dip. And you're going to start to see what the groaning of the earth. In Iran, this protest movement isn't losing power. The mullahs and the guys in charge, like a mob, like the mafia, like totalitarian, religious goon squads, they've got 70 protesters lined up for execution. Now, what started this was the death of one woman. What is going to cause Iran to have a revolution and an overturning of government is when they stupidly fan the flame with 70 more martyrs. Would you agree with that assessment, Barry?
Oh, yes. I think the executions are mounting daily. It's disastrous, but I think a revolution could take place. I was watching a news special in Israel how Iranian women of Kurdish descent, but other Iranian women from Iranian Iran itself have actually migrated over to Kurdish-held areas, and that even the women, just like in Israel, are training with weapons in order to go back and fight against the dictatorship of the religious mullahs. We know in Iran, we know also that not only a niece, not only a daughter, and not only a nephew have all come out against Ali Khomeini, the Ayatollah Khomeini. And so even his own family members are against what's going on. And unfortunately, sad situations where a 14-year-old schoolgirl in Iran, she refused to wear the hijab. She removed it as her sign of protest. She was repeatedly raped and killed by whatever authorities took her. The mother who came and complained against has disappeared, who complained against what happened to her daughter. She's disappeared now. And this is just only adding fuel to the flames of revolution in Iran. And I think in 2023, we're going to see radical challenges to regimes like this. Even though suppressed in the news, we'll see these things happen in China more and more. And I think we could see these things very well happen across Europe and even in the United States.
Well, and look, we only got 45 seconds, Barry. Let me say, we're missing the whole big story about Bolsonaro in Brazil.
Yeah.
There again, the Chinese Communist Party and the Marxist leftists, and what do they have in common? It's the elites taking over your government and lying to you about redistributing wealth so that everybody gets a better break. You never do. Poverty hits everyone, and the elites entrench themselves with all of the spoils of victory. In Brazil, the people aren't putting up with it, and the military is under constant pressure to step in and disrupt the election fraud and takeover to communism of Brazil. But we're going to be coming back in the next broadcast with next year's predictions, and you don't want to miss it. Thank you, Barry.
Shalom, shalom. Blessings.